Maria Marten, born on July 24, 1801, was the daughter of Thomas Marten, a humble mole catcher. Known for her beauty and charm, Maria had already been entangled in local romances that left her with 2 children. One of these children, born to Corder's older brother, Thomas, tragically died in infancy, while the other, Thomas Henry, remained alive under the care and financial support of his father, Peter Matthews, who had never married Maria. Despite the challenges of her early life, Maria's hopes for a stable relationship with William Corder would soon lead her down a dark and fateful path. William Corder, born around 1803, was the son of a local farmer, but his reputation in the community was far from respectable. He once fraudulently sold his father's pigs, only to have his father quietly resolve the matter without involving the authorities. But Corder's misdemeanors did not end there. He forged a check for $93 and was implicated in aiding a local thief, Samuel Smith, in stealing a pig from a neighboring village. When questioned, Smith made a chilling remark about Corder's future. "I'll be damned if he will not be hung some of these days." After being sent to London in disgrace following his earlier misdeeds, Corder returned to Polstead following the drowning of his brother Thomas. In the wake of a series of family tragedies, the deaths of his father and 3 brothers within 18 months, Corder was left as the sole heir to the family farm, living under the watchful eye of his mother. It was against this backdrop of isolation and responsibility that his entanglement with Maria Marten deepened. By 1826, when Maria was 24, she and the 22-year-old Corder began a secret relationship. Maria soon became pregnant, giving birth in 1827 to their child. The child passed away, the circumstances later clouded by the suspicion of foul play, but Corder reportedly still intended to marry Maria. That summer, he proposed a secret meeting at the Red Barn, suggesting an elopement in Ipswich. He claimed the parish officers were threatening to prosecute Maria for bearing illegitimate children, a threat that appears to have been entirely fabricated, though whether Corder lied or was simply misinformed remains unclear. The plan to elope was delayed several times. Initially set for the evening of May 16, 1827, it was postponed to May 17th due to a supposed illness of one of Corder's brothers, a confusing explanation, given that all his brothers had already died. On May 18th, Corder arrived at the Martens' cottage and, in the presence of Maria's stepmother Anne, insisted Maria leave immediately. He instructed her to disguise herself in men's clothing to avoid attention, while he would transport her belongings to the Red Barn and change before continuing their journey to Ipswich. This seemingly romantic plan would soon transform into one of England's most infamous murders. Shortly after leaving the Martens' cottage, Maria set out to meet William Corder at the Red Barn, a secluded structure on Barnfield Hill, just half a mile from her home. That journey would mark the last time anyone saw her alive. Corder vanished as well, only to later resurface with a chilling story. Maria had supposedly gone to Ipswich, or some nearby town, and he could not yet bring her home as his wife, claiming fear of angering friends and relatives. Corder's letters to Maria's family only deepened the deception. He insisted that he and Maria were married and living on the Isle of Wight, offering a series of increasingly implausible excuses for her silence. She was unwell, had injured her hand, or the letters had simply gone astray. Yet the weeks turned into months, and the growing unease in Polstead could no longer be ignored. It was Maria's stepmother, haunted by the reoccurring dreams that Maria had been murdered and hidden in the Red Barn, who first voiced the terrifying possibility. On April 19, 1828, driven by fear and intuition, she convinced her husband to investigate. What they uncovered was shocking. Inside one of the barn's grain storage bins lay the body of Maria Marten, wrapped in a sack. Despite the advanced state of decomposition, the remains were unmistakably hers. An inquest was held at the Cock Inn in Polstead, a building that still stands today, where Maria was formally identified by her sister, Anne. Certain physical traits confirmed her identity. recognizable hair, fragments of her clothing, and a missing tooth that matched the jawbone of the corpse. The investigation also revealed a damning piece of evidence linking Corder to the crime. His green handkerchief was found tied around Maria's neck. Polstead Constable Ayres, determined to bring the murderer to justice, was able to track Corder through a friend who knew his former address. He was joined by James Lee, a London police officer. Together, they traced Corder to Everly Grove House, a boarding house for ladies in Brentwood, where he was running operations alongside his new wife, Maria Moore, a woman he had met through the Lonely Hearts advertisements he placed in the Times. Lee devised a clever ruse to gain entry. Posing as a father seeking accommodations for his daughter, he was allowed inside, where he found Corder in the parlor having breakfast with 4 ladies. When Lee confronted him privately with the charges, Corder denied any knowledge of Maria Marten or the crime itself. Yet a search of the house revealed incriminating evidence: a pair of pistols allegedly purchased on the day of the murder, letters from Mr. Gardner that hinted at warnings about discovery, and even a passport from the French ambassador, suggesting that Corder may have been planning to flee the country. William Corder was swiftly returned to Suffolk to face justice. His trial took place at Shire Hall in Bury St. Edmunds, beginning on August 7, 1828, after a short delay caused by the overwhelming public interest in the case. From as early as July 21st, local hotels were filling with visitors eager to witness the proceedings. Court admission was strictly by ticket, yet even the judge and court officials found themselves jostling through crowds that had gathered outside. The presiding judge, Chief Baron William Alexander, openly expressed frustration at the sensationalized press coverage. Despite the judge's concerns, the Times praised the public for uniting against Corder, who entered a firm plea of not guilty. The circumstances surrounding Maria Marten's death were as grisly as they were confusing. The exact cause of death could not be definitively determined. One wound suggested that a sharp instrument had been plunged into her eye socket, possibly Corder's short sword, but it was also conceivable that her father's spade had caused the injury while exhuming her body. Strangulation could not be ruled out either, given that Corder's handkerchief had been found around her neck and some injuries suggested she might have been shot. To ensure no technicality could result in a mistrial, he faced 9 charges in total, including one for forgery. Witness testimony painted a chilling picture of the events leading up to and following Maria's disappearance. Her stepmother recounted her dreams of Maria being murdered and buried in the Red Barn, while her father, Thomas Marten, described the harrowing moment he unearthed his daughter's body. Maria's 10-year-old brother, George, testified that he had seen Corder with a loaded pistol before the murder and later observed him leaving the barn with a pickaxe. Officer James Lee provided evidence regarding Corder's arrest and the items discovered during the search of his boarding house. When Corder took the stand, he admitted to being in the barn with Maria, but claimed that after a heated argument, he had left. He alleged he heard a pistol shot while walking away and returned to find her dead beside one of his own pistols. Despite pleading with the jury to give him the benefit of the doubt, the decision was swift. After only 35 minutes of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict of guilty. Chief Baron Alexander sentenced him to hang, with his body to be dissected afterwards. In the days following the trial, Corder remained in prison, tormented by the weight of his guilt. After agonizing reflection, entreaties from his wife, repeated meetings with the prison chaplain, and pleas from his warden and the prison governor, he finally confessed. Yet even in confession, he denied stabbing Maria, claiming instead that he had shot her in the eye after their argument, a final desperate attempt to shape the narrative of his deadly crime. On August 11, 1828, the final chapter of William Corder's dark story came to a public and grisly conclusion. Taken to the gallows in Bury St. Edmunds, he appeared so weakened by the ordeal that he required support to stand. As the noon hour approached, a massive crowd gathered to witness the execution, Estimates of spectators ranged from 7,000 to as many as 20,000, all drawn by the morbid fascination with the man who had murdered Maria Marten. Just before the hood was drawn over his head, Corder, prompted by prison governor John Orridge, made a brief confession. "I am guilty. My sentence is just. I deserve my fate, and may God have mercy on my soul." He was then hanged, his body left to hang for an hour before being cut down by the hangman.